They say if you see its face, you're already dead. Not because you'll die immediately, though that might be kinder, but because the moment you lay eyes on it, your time begins ticking down. A countdown that cannot be stopped, reversed, or bargained with. SCP-096 doesn't forgive. It doesn't pause. It simply comes for you, and nothing in this world, not steel walls, not oceans, not even the deepest holes humanity has ever dug, can keep it away. But when it happened to me, I didn't even know what I had seen. And that's what makes it worse. I was only supposed to be at Site 17 for 6 days. A maintenance subcontractor. Entry-level clearance. Just a nameless worker fixing overhead lights and faulty vents in low-risk containment wings. My access was restricted, my routes predefined, and I was told very specifically which sectors I should never enter. I followed every protocol, every checklist, until the day that protocol failed us all. It was sometime after 1 a.m., and I was in sublevel C, replacing a damaged fiber conduit. The halls were quiet, unnaturally so, the kind of stillness where even your own breathing sounds intrusive. I remember feeling cold, though the temperature was stable. There was something heavy in the air. And then, without warning, the silence shattered. A low vibration pulsed through the concrete walls. Not a noise exactly, but something physical, like a heartbeat out of sync with the world. Seconds later, the red lights kicked in, bathing the corridors in a dull, pulsing glow. The alarm, strangely, came last, flat and mechanical, accompanied by a cold voice repeating the same words in multiple languages: containment breach. Remain in designated safe zones. I had no idea what breached. My comms were dead. Radio static. The emergency signals I tried to send never made it through. I didn't even know if the site was still manned, or if I was running through a tomb. So I ran. I didn't know where to. My route back to the upper levels was cut off, the elevator offline, the stairwell locked from the inside. I took random turns through halls I'd never been assigned to, hoping to find another access point, some console, a ladder, anything. That was when I heard the scream. I don't know how to describe it in a way that makes sense to anyone who wasn't there. It wasn't just a sound, it was an intrusion, into the air, into the body. Like steel grinding against nerves. It wasn't human, but it was too close to being human to ignore. A distorted, endless shriek that scraped across the corridors like claws on bone. I froze for half a second, just long enough to make the mistake of turning toward it. That's when I found the first body. He was slumped against the wall, a puddle of red spreading beneath his armor. I saw the torn badge first, S. Marrow, Response Unit. His face. I can't describe it because there was nothing left to describe. It wasn't torn or burned or mutilated, it was simply absent, as if someone had erased it from reality. The blood had sprayed high onto the walls, long, looping arcs like someone had swung him by the ankles before letting go. The steel plating behind him was bent inward. My brain caught up just moments later. The designation, Response Unit, and the location of the breach meant only one thing. SCP-096. The Shy Guy. And I might have already seen it. That's the horror of SCP-096. It doesn't require full eye contact. A photo. A flicker of its face in a video feed. A blurred image on a cracked monitor, any of those are enough to seal your fate. And I had just run past several shattered terminals while fleeing the breach zone. One of them, I now recalled with a sinking dread, had a looping feed of containment cells. I didn't look carefully. But what if my eyes had seen something before my mind even processed it? You don't get confirmation with 096. You just wait. 3 minutes. That's what they say. You have 3 minutes after seeing its face. Then it starts running. And it never stops. I stopped running. Just for a moment. My lungs were burning. My legs were trembling. And somewhere in the echoing maze behind me, the scream changed pitch. It became directional. Focused. Like radar locking onto a single heat signature. It was coming for me. And I had no idea if I'd actually triggered it, but I had to act like I had. Because in this case, the only thing worse than being wrong was being right and standing still. I ran like I'd never run before, not because I was brave, or even because I believed I could outrun it, but because every cell in my body had decided that staying still meant certain death. There was no calculation, no logic, only a primal instinct to flee, even when I knew there might be nowhere left to run. The corridors stretched like they were breathing. Familiar corners twisted into unfamiliar shapes, storage bays opened into black voids, and every overhead light felt dimmer than the last. The walls closed in, not physically, but in my mind, a tightening spiral of panic and pressure, as though the entire facility were turning into SCP-096's hunting ground. I couldn't hear my own breath anymore, not over the screaming. By then, it had become constant, like the sound of a banshee trying to escape from inside the concrete itself. It echoed through the pipes, vibrated in the floor, pressed against the back of my skull like a weight. Every turn I made felt like the wrong one. Every shadow stretched like fingers reaching to slow me down. But then, by some miracle, some chance, I saw it. A lockdown booth. One of those sealed observation points used during active breaches, equipped with manual override, emergency lighting, and a containment-grade reinforced door that took 30 seconds to close, slow, but maybe just fast enough. I dove inside, slammed the panel with my palm, and watched the thick metal door begin to grind shut. The room was bathed in the low red light of the breach alarm. I backed into a corner and waited, the seconds dragging out like hours. I told myself to breathe, but my lungs had forgotten how. And then I heard it. Footsteps. No. Not footsteps, impacts. Like flesh slamming into stone at impossible speeds. From down the corridor, something fast and massive was approaching, crashing off the walls like a cannonball made of bone and hatred. It wasn't trying to be stealthy. It didn't need to be. The screaming grew louder, then clearer. It was personal now. Directed. It knew I was here. The door was still closing, inch by inch. My hand shook as I grabbed a nearby fire axe, not because I thought I could fight it, but because I wanted to die trying, not cowering. That was when I caught a glimpse, no more than a flicker, of movement beyond the glass slit in the door. And then, it stopped. No more crashing. No more screaming. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring because the absence of sound is too loud. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. 10 seconds passed. Then 20. Then the door sealed shut with a final clank. And I was alive. Or at least, I thought I was. Because after a while, when I finally dared to check the booth's monitoring feed, I realized the cameras were fried, nothing but static and warping black streaks across the screen. It had passed by here, definitely. But had it seen me? Had it somehow missed my face? Or was it waiting? Watching? Was I still being hunted? That night, I stayed in the booth until rescue teams arrived hours later. They found 3 dead personnel, 2 missing, and an entire sector collapsed from what they described as impact trauma consistent with high-velocity biological force. SCP-096 had returned to containment, docile as ever, curled in a corner like a scared child. But I didn't care. I requested transfer immediately, and I never went back underground. I thought I was safe. I even started to believe I'd gotten lucky. That maybe I dodged a bullet no one ever survives. Life returned, more or less, to normal. But nightmares don't care about paperwork. They don't honor transfer requests. I'd wake in the middle of the night, heart racing, convinced I heard that scream just outside my window. Or worse, I'd dream I was back in the corridor, not running, but frozen, paralyzed as the screaming got closer and closer and closer. And then one day, the dream changed. Instead of the scream, I heard only breathing. Something slow, hollow, and almost sorrowful. And then I'd wake up. Until one night, I didn't wake alone. There was a sound, real this time. Not a dream. Not in my mind. From the hallway outside my apartment, I heard it. A single thump. Then silence. Then a second thump. Closer. I held my breath. My phone buzzed beside me. I turned it over. No message. Just a notification from a secure Foundation server I hadn't logged into in over a year. Incident flag, visual contact possible, SCP-096. I stared at the screen, willing it to vanish, telling myself this wasn't real. But from behind the door, somewhere just beyond the frame, a sound rose. Not a full scream, not yet, but the beginning of one. And I knew. My countdown had just begun.